Well, how are you guys doing? Welcome to the Heidi St. John podcast. I'm really excited today to have my friend Melissa Crabtree in the studio with me. For those of you who have been watching this podcast now for a while, you're going to notice a pretty big change. I'm in my brand new studio here at Firmly Planted Family, and we're just really excited to launch an entirely new season with a new series of talks and interesting people. Today, we're going to talk about the issue of hormones. You guys write in all the time. Talking about, the different stages of being a woman, and it is no joke. And so we're going to have some fun talking about that today. If you are a woman or if you are a man who loves a woman, this show is for you. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. Well, welcome to the show, you guys. Before I get into it today, I want to say a big thank you to my sponsor. I want to say thank you to Not Consumed. They are writing family Bible studies. Actually, there's even more than family Bible studies at Not Consumed. Kim Sorgas has been a friend of mine for a long time. I've known her, been out on the road with her for just feels like decades now. And she has developed a whole series of product lines that are really that are designed to help you not be consumed by life. And I think they're life-giving. I work with people here who I really believe in, and these guys have been kind enough to sponsor the show. So I hope you'll go and check them out. You can head to notconsumed.com/Heidi, and you can sign up for a free 5-day family Bible study. And you can also get 15% off your entire purchase by just using the coupon code Heidi when you check out. Check it out at notconsumed.com/Heidi. I think you guys are really going to be blessed. Also, I want to let you know that we are working our way through the Bible chronologically over at Faith That Speaks. We've had a whole bunch of you jump in and try to build a habit of being in the Word of God daily. There's a reason why the Bible says that it is a lamp to your feet and a light to your path. It assumes that we are living in a very dark world and it needs to be illuminated by the light of Scripture. And there is no better way to do that than to establish a pattern of being in the Word of God daily. So that's exactly what we're doing at Faith That Speaks. I come in once a week and I give some commentary. We do a Bible recap. We talk about prayer requests, what God's doing in our life. And then every day over at Faith That Speaks at the blog, we are going through the daily Bible reading and commenting on what God is teaching us. We've got journaling pages for you, Bible recap pages for you, all kinds of great stuff. Check it out at faiththatspeaks.com. I think you guys are going to love it. And I'm hoping that by this time next year, it would have changed the way that you view the Bible. And it will be like just you wake up in the morning and just like you reach for a glass of water, you're going to reach for the Word of God, and it really will change your life. So check it out at faiththatspeaks.com. All right, I'm really excited today because one of my best friends in the whole wide world who happens to work with me and is a huge part of the ministry at the Heidi St. John podcast and also at Faith That Speaks is Melissa Crabtree. And you guys have heard me have her on my show before. We've talked about all kinds of things. Melissa was a special needs teacher by trade. But I think in another life, she should have been a doctor because she's really, really interested in the human body and how it works. And it's kind of funny. I think when my kids are, even remotely starting to catch like a cold or a flu or anything, they typically don't call me. They call Melissa. I'm not really sure how I should feel about that, but apparently it's working for us. Melissa Crabtree, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's fun to be here in the studio.
This is crazy, right? This is crazy. I'm just like, oh my word, like we're actually here. We've been talking about this now for a long, long time. And it's fun to see like a sketch that Skylar draws come to life.
Yep, it is.
And so just super excited. Let's jump into this because you and I have these conversations a lot. There are a lot of women that work for us here at Firmly Planted Family and also at the Heidi St. John podcast. And actually, we were super glad to get some men on staff just to kind of even out the estrogen-rich environment in which we find ourselves most of the time. But for years, I've been talking, kind of about my health journey personally. And obviously, I'm not a doctor. I just like to play one on my podcast. But we really have seen some things work and have experiences that are unique to you and unique to me. But I don't think they're unique to women as a general rule.
Yep,
Hormones, kind of a big issue in the life of a woman. Women's lives are literally lived in cycles and seasons.
Yep.
So cycles and seasons. You don't want to talk about a cycle with a woman, she's going to go, oh yeah, and she's going to lean in.
Yeah.
You've been interested in this for a really long time. How did you get interested in kind of understanding more about hormones and how we can kind of help our bodies move through not only the cycle but also the seasons of life.
I think I'm interested in the seasons of life as I'm moving through them.
Weird, right? Because you and I have been working together for
13, almost 14 years now. Actually, yeah, I guess now we really are a couple months of 14.
Yeah, we are. So that's
February
that
we
is
started
a
working
whole
together.
lot of cycles and a few seasons too.
It is true.
Yeah.
I think it's just, I really see life in patterns, and I always think, I mean, God created us to be healthy and function at an optimal level. That's how he didn't create our bodies to not feel well all the time.
Yeah.
And, so I'm always thinking there is a better way to feel better. And because my brain just works in patterns, I see cause and effect all the time. And
you're
and
much
I
more
love to
analytical than I
research.
am. So I'm like if we're two sides of one brain. I'm like we should do this now, and Melissa's like, wait, we should analyze it. You're like you are a much more analytic thinker than I am. And it's really been a blessing to me because, we could have, any kind of, you name it, kind of an issue on the staff that we're dealing with, physical things. And your brain immediately goes to, well, what did you eat? Well, what are you, what are the.
Sure.
Yeah. That's exactly where you go. And I don't typically go there, although I do more after hanging with you for 13 years.
Well, and I don't know that I necessarily did. I mean, so I had a child with food allergies, my first one, and I knew very quickly at 2.5 weeks he was wheezing right after nursing him. I mean, it was very clear. He wasn't wheezing 20 minutes ago, and now he's wheezing. What just happened in this 20 minutes? So that started my journey of looking for cause and effect, and then learning very quickly that doctors don't know everything. No offense to doctors. They learn a lot, but they're not trained in this wellness model that thankfully is springing up all over. The free market is driving it.
Come on, girl.
And that's
I am
great.
so excited.
Yeah,
I really am. I'm excited. Like you and I were just talking about a few minutes ago. I'm excited to see the conversation about vaccines come to the forefront. I'm very excited. Like just to know, I'm not a super fan of Mark Zuckerberg, but I now know that they're going to stop censoring people, which means that I can say what I feel like I'm supposed to be saying and asking questions about without the fear of social media putting you in social media jail.
Yeah.
We have to be able to have the conversations, and I'm excited. I feel like there's maybe a new dawn in the United States for sure, where we can at least have a spirited and robust discussion. So important.
Well, and if they're so confident in their side, let it rise to the top.
Let's go.
Like, have the conversation. If it's so amazing, it will prove itself. So it's exciting to me to see. We need to have that conversation. And again, I'm not anti-doctor. I'm not anti-Western medicine. I'm anti-financial corruption in Western medicine and our government.
Yeah.
And that is what has screwed up most of our system.
I just saw a great meme. I sent it to a friend of mine. I don't know if I sent it to you. I don't think I did, but it was like a microscope, and it said, the chicken. What is it? The new flu that's out there. It's like
bird flu. I think
the bird flu.
Yeah.
It said the bird flu through a microscope, and it was just dollar signs. And I started laughing out loud, just like you did, because I'm like, that's true. Yeah. And if we haven't learned anything over the last 5 years, we should have learned that.
Yeah, it really it's hard. It's actually really sad because I think there is some good information there, but you have to just look at who's getting paid.
Yeah.
When you follow the information, who's getting paid at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And and granted, actually, we're going to talk about Young Living, and we do sell Young Living. We're sharing Young Living because we're passionate about it. But I was sharing Young Living a long time ago before we were passionate, and I would, I'll share about exercise. Nobody's paying me to talk about exercise, So you just always have to look at that part of it, I think, and see who's funding the study, who are they married to, what board are they on, who did they lobby, because
it's interesting because
you can't trust the information anymore.
No, and I do think that might be a silver lining of the Rona. Like, if there is such a thing from something as terrible as what we all just went through in the last 5 years.
I would absolutely agree.
Yeah, I do think, even the conversations we're having about the labels on our food now. I mean, for goodness sake, I didn't understand seed oils until just like 3 years ago. And when you understand, oh, hey, I'm eating petroleum products, it's upsetting, and you realize why is our food so different here in the United States than it is even over in Europe? It's because we've got corruption. in a lot of these, a lot of these agencies. And so I'm super excited about it. Obviously, you're not here today to really dive into that, but I do think it's part of the big picture of this almost awakening. My kids are looking at raising their kids very differently. Like, I'm having very different conversations with Savannah and Sierra. Savannah's been at the mothering game now for about, over a decade. And so she's well on her way. But I'm watching my kids are questioning things that I never questioned. Mm-hmm. They're questioning things that I just took for granted. We gave our kids vaccines, and I didn't even think twice about it, really, except for to do a slow schedule, which my mom had really taught me how to do. But my kids are asking questions that I didn't even know need to be asked. And so to me, that's only good for my grandbabies. I feel like, okay, the next generation is going to be healthier. The next generation maybe not going to have the struggles with the cancers and that kind of thing that we have seen so prevalent in the generations we have now. And I think the wellness conversations that you and I have on the regular is a part of that. I feel like these conversations are happening around kitchen tables all across the country.
Yeah, and it's once you know better, you
do better.
You just can't. We did Weight Watchers at one point, just to kind of I was doing it for moral support with my husband. I will never forget how bad my favorite piece of pizza is. I was allowed 21 points a day at my size and body, frame and everything. My favorite piece of pizza was 27 points.
Get out of
Literally
town.
One piece pepperoni Pizza Hut pizza was more than I was supposed to eat allotted in that. I'll never forget how bad for me that piece of pizza is.
Yeah, it's true.
Do I never have it? Well, no, that's a double negative question. Yes, every now and then I do still have a piece of that pizza, and there's a balance, and I like ice cream sometimes, but do I live on it all the time? No, because I don't feel well.
Yeah.
So it's like once you give up soda or whatever, and you realize really how bad you felt on it, you don't forget that.
No, you really don't.
And it's hard to give it to your kids when you know that it's not good for their brain.
Oh, for goodness sake.
And it's hard to do that once you
and
know
all
better.
the stuff that's in our food, like the things that they used to color, Fruit Loops in the United States is not what they used to color Fruit Loops in the UK. It's a completely different model. Well, we should be asking really hard questions about why that is. Right. I also think, boy, once you realize how great it is to feel good, it's worth it to lose the weight. It's worth it to want to eat better. It's worth it to exercise every day. I've gotten a bunch of my friends on the Swerk It app. I love that app, you guys. Really, people should check it out. I love that app because it's so easy and it gets me exercising, almost every day. I'm trying to do that. But to me, the piece that has been missing for so long, we didn't know, and I like what you just said. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Mm-hmm. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And then we have the opportunity to make a choice. We can go, oh, I'm going to do better. I did a whole show not that long ago, and I talked to the women over at Faith That Speaks about my decision to cut way back on alcohol. I read a book called Alcohol, You Lied to Me.
Yeah.
Everyone should read that book. We should link back to it. It's Alcohol, You Lied to Me. It's a pretty short read, but they talk about how long the alcohol stays in your system. And I'm not talking about excess drinking because that's clearly wrong. But I am a girl who loves a good glass of Cabernet. I love going, and I probably still will do this. I love to go wine tasting with my husband, but I'll tell you what, I don't drink every day anymore. And when I learned, oh, hey, this stuff stays in your system. People say, well, are you ready for that 5 o'clock drink? It's because it's just now working its way out of your system, and your body's like, I would like another drink, please. And you're poisoning yourself. And I think people we've been told, by the wine industry, for lack of a better word, how really, really good it is for you. But the reality is it's not that good for you when you're doing it on the regular. And so I told the women that over at Faith That Speaks. I'm like, this isn't even me saying you're wrong for doing it. I don't think you are. I think we need to start really taking a second look at what we're putting into our bodies on the regular. Yep. And it affects our hormones, for goodness sake. Boy, we should launch into this because alcohol affects your hormones.
And as you get
massively.
Older, the female body, because I was hearing it on a podcast about females, does not metabolize it the same way.
Nope.
So yeah, it really is different. I also saw a study where when you have alcohol regularly in whatever the interval is, whether it's every 3 hours or whether it's 24 hours or 3 days, your body learns it.
Yep.
And it raises your cortisol so that it drives you to have it because it's teaching your body, I need that to lower my cortisol.
Yep.
So whatever your regular is, that your regular habit is teaching your body, my cortisol stays high until I have this alcohol. So then, I mean, that to me sounds literally how we end up with alcoholics.
100%.
Of course it calms you down. You're teaching your body to want that to be calmed down.
Yeah. It's
and
amazing.
It makes complete sense that it's
and I would like
habit
to
forming.
Absolutely. And I would like to get away from the conversation that we've had around alcohol in the church for so long, which is a shaming thing, right? It's like, that's a sin. No, it isn't. Like, you can't prove that to me in scripture at all. But I do think, just like with every other thing, let's have a conversation about whether or not it's good for me.
Yeah.
And I love that these conversations are coming out, in the open. I think there's freedom, and I love that you bring the Spirit of the Lord in. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. And so we have the opportunity to talk about this stuff. And I noticed in my life, when I make those decisions, I feel better, I look better, I sleep better, all of it. And I think that is true of whatever it is we're putting in our body. We need to start looking at what we're doing as fuel and not just as food. And the same thing was true with how we treat our bodies when it comes to our hormones. So let's jump into this because, I opened up the show today by talking about cycles. And women, we live our lives in cycles. And this is another reason. This is not related to this. But can I just say, I am so tired, and I'm really tired, of hearing the feminist movement and women in particular talk about how we're going to have our, we're going to go to school and we're going to get this really great career. It's career, and then we'll have babies. But I'm just here to tell you guys, you're living seasonally.
Literally.
And there
you have
is
a number of eggs and they go away.
Come on.
1 month at a time.
Men aren't like that.
Yeah.
Men can father a baby until they're, much later in life. Women are literally living from a season to season. And there is a season in which is the prime season for us to have children. And it's not when we're 40. Can we have babies in our 40s? Absolutely. I had a baby in my 40s. She's delightful. One of the very, very best things about my life is a little girl that I had when I was almost 42 years old. But I will tell you, it was different being pregnant at 42 or nearly 42 than it was at being pregnant at 21. It's just a different thing. And I hate to see women pushing this off in pursuit of something that's not going to give them nearly the return that raising children is going to give them. And again, it's driven by hormones. So let's talk about cycles, because you say that there are 4 phases of a female cycle. What are they?
So it's really interesting. And it's to think about your own cycle when you're hearing this, for people who are listening. It's really, now I totally recognize this and it makes sense. Okay, so the menstrual phase is the bleeding phase. So everybody knows. So that starts at day 1, right? Well, that's a lot like the winter phase. So
boy, that's for sure.
Yes. So we don't feel well. We want to lay with the heating pad, lay on the couch, jammies, comfortable. So that's a lot like a winter sort of, the higgy people talk about, where we're settling in and we just want to be comforted,
Yeah.
And then the follicular phase, which is a week after your period is over, is more like the spring. You're high energy, your sex drive is good, you feel skinny, you're energetic.
Love feeling skinny.
I think your visionaries are high energy during that time.
Yeah.
Extroverted
you work
things.
With a few people like that.
Yes,
Listen,
I do.
I feel like that was a pointed remark that you just made.
So if I were ever charting, I actually think that sometimes I know exactly what's happening. Do you start projects then?
Yeah.
So because we're high energy, creative, let's get things done, right?
Yeah.
So then the ovulatory phase is more like summer. That's 2 to 3 days. So it's not like week 1, week 2. It's not just a 4-week. It ends up being a 28-day cycle, but it's not necessarily weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the ovulatory phase is 2 to 3 days. Your skin glows, your hair is shiny, you're exuding joy, energy.
Yeah.
And oftentimes people will say they can see that she's pregnant right away.
It's that glow. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that's not always connected just to that, but that's kind of what I think when I see that. And then the luteal phase is more like the fall. You want to get life in order. This is the nesting that we see people do
before we don't feel good.
Yeah, they're tying up loose ends. We're settling in. For me, I think I want to walk around my house and purge everything. I'm like, give me the garbage bag. We're going to Goodwill.
100%. Yeah, that's right. Get rid of it.
Yeah. So late luteal phase is then that's what we would call the PMS.
Yeah.
Which, so premenstrual syndrome is uncomfortable for some people, by the end of this podcast, we're actually going to talk about some things that it actually isn't made to be uncomfortable. You can actually not have any PMS symptoms. So premenstrual syndrome would actually be something that you want to be corrected. We should actually start our period by surprise.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling bad for 3 days. If you're feeling bad for 3 days before, something is off, which is some of what we want to talk about. So right at that point, we're having a major progesterone drop. That's what starts then.
It's great to be a
the
girl.
menstrual phase again,
Can we just
right?
have a moment of silence for how great it is to be a girl?
I'm like, some of these guys are like, I want to be a woman. I want to have a period. I'm like, it's really not all that amazing. Like, just keep your easy thing. It's way easier. I don't understand why people think this is fun. So I think it is kind of funny.
Right. The guys who are just like, let's
everybody can have a period. I'm like, no, actually. First of all, you can't. Second of all, don't pretend you can. Third, it's not that fun.
It's not that great. And really women, because we're so used to living in cycles, we really have stages of life that we live in. And we should define them. So if you're to define those stages, what would you say?
So, and this is really interesting, and really we're using our culture is using the wrong language. We say,
there's a shocker.
We will say that we are menopausal. Well, but I'm going through menopause. Menopause isn't actually something we go through. Menopause is literally 1 day. So the main part is just the regular, your menstrual cycle. That's your normal phase. And then perimenopause is actually the transition.
Yep.
Some people it starts at 35. It's lots of people it doesn't start until 45, and it can be like 7 to 10 years. And what it is your eggs are phasing out. So when you said that we have we're on a clock.
Yep.
We're born with a certain number of eggs. We release an egg every month or a couple, depending on some people, and they run out. Well, you have a period until your eggs are gone. So it's literally a clock. And then, so that transition period, our hormones are changing as we're running out of eggs. That's actually called perimenopause, but we talk about it as if that's menopause. We're going through really perimenopause. Menopause is when you haven't had a menstrual cycle for 12 months and 1 day. That 1 day is menopausal.
Wow.
Every day after that is postmenopause.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I actually just learned that. I was listening to a podcast and then reading a book lately.
That.
Yes.
I feel smarter just having had this conversation.
Well,
with
and
you.
it's not like it necessarily matters, but it does help kind of define the scenario.
Well, and I love that you define sort of perimenopause because, again, it goes back to what I was just saying to the young women. Like, you really literally are on a timeline. Your body is on a very significant, predetermined timeline. And it's one of the reasons why we're not going to talk about this today. My super big gripe with IVF and how we are treating women's bodies and the preciousness of our reproduction and all of those things. We really do live our lives in cycles.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, God made us to have energy for certain things in our lives, and that part changes.
Well, I will tell you, I mean, at nearly 55, I don't have the energy. I mean, I'm watching my daughters with their babies, and I'm like, ooh, there's a reason I did that when I was in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah, it's true.
There is a reason, because it is demanding. I mean, there's a reason why, a husband comes home from work and his wife's been like surrounded by little people all day long, and it's eating at your physical energy, your emotional energy. You're regulating so many different people's emotions. Well, you get to the point in your life where that regulation of other people's emotions is exhausting. Yeah. More so than when you were younger.
So let me share a little bit of a personal story because this has just happened for me in the last 3 weeks. So we talk so much about menopause. Well, I know I'm not in menopause. I'm not post-menopausal, right? We used to say in menopause because that was the wrong language.
I am post-menopausal.
So you're post-menopausal, right? Well, so
I'm not hating it either. I should just point that out. I think people are so freaked out about it.
Yeah.
I'm doing just fine.
Well, and I think a lot of it is because you're working on those things.
Absolutely.
And you're focusing on your hormones, and that helps you feel well.
100%.
Western medicine actually is like postmenopausal. They do hormone replacement therapy for a little bit, and then they're like, oh yeah, see ya, you're done. Live with low estrogen the rest of your life. Sorry.
Right.
And but you really feel really bad with low estrogen.
And your bones don't like it.
Right. But there are better ways to do it than just synthetic, which that's not even what I'm getting into today. But so where I have been researching a lot lately because I've been a little bit confused. So I'm 48 now, And mid-COVID, right when everybody started getting the shots, which I did not get, I was surrounded by tons of people. A lot of people listening to this will have seen that huge Facebook group, 40,000 women, where everybody's talking about their whole cycle went crazy, even if they didn't get the shot, right? So the whole world kind of went crazy. Well, my cycle went kind of crazy at that spot. So I've been thinking now for 4 years, okay, my cycle went crazy then, trying to get it all back. Like, how do I get this back to my usual 28 days that I've been since I was 12 or something? What's broken there? How do I fix that? Well, what I have learned, I think, over the past couple of months is that I think that just pushed me very, like, overnight into perimenopause. And because all I've ever heard is, if you have hot flashes, you're in menopause. Okay, well, nobody has said anything about this 5 to 7 year transition of how you kind of feel like, what in the world is happening in my body? What I've known from 12 to 45, okay, like clockwork. I know this. I know this life. I don't actually know this, completely confused what's actually happening because we're not actually talking about that part.
No.
So that's actually been a little bit of where my, passion has come from, is like, wait a minute, I can help you ahead of time so you're not surprised and confused. We can learn these things, right?
Yeah.
And even like learning about the 4 stages of our cycle. Are we teaching our teenagers about the stages of your cycle?
Yeah.
Why not teach them?
Well,
It's so good for people to actually know about how their body works.
Because we're confused. We don't even know what our gender is
Right,
anymore.
okay, well-
That's why we're not talking about it. We're trying to define what a woman is.
Right.
Okay, so that's
Well,
kind
to the
of
ones who do know,
messed up the conversation.
let's teach them. So, okay, so I recently was, so the last year and a half, I moved. My daughter was graduating. I went working full time while I was homeschooling the last year. Huge financial changes in that move. A year after that, my dad passes away. I mean, there were some significant things that happened in a year and a half. So that also, in my confusion, is this stress? All of a sudden this summer, the weight that I can very easily drop is not dropping. Why all of a sudden after 48 years am I now needing this next pant size that I've always said I'll never move into because I just drop it and get right back to where I need to be, but I can't. Like, what is going on with my body? So, and it's not just me. Well, so there are hormones at play, right? So I started, doing lots of research about this. A lot of it is high cortisol, which makes total sense after my last year of life. And
that's
so
a hormone.
Yes, and that's a hormone.
You should define, when you say cortisol, so that people listening, what is that? What triggers it?
So cortisol is our stress hormone, which is really good when you're being chased by a tiger. That's kind of the example we use. But when you're not being chased by a tiger, you actually don't want high cortisol. It's the life-saving hormone. Now, when we wake up in the morning,
like
we do have cortisol
you
increase.
Adrenaline.
Yes.
Cortisol.
Yeah. And it does. We do have higher cortisol through the day, and it and it lowers as you. So you want some cortisol in your body all the time. If you have completely low cortisol, you have no energy at all. If you have completely high cortisol, you could roll over in the middle of the night and your heart starts racing. Or some people are super sensitive to caffeine. Some people have panic attacks with high cortisol.
Also, not to beat the dead horse, there's a direct correlation between high cortisol and alcohol consumption. And when you figure that out, that was another thing that I learned in the last year and a half or whatever, that heart, that racing heart and all that stuff, and you start to connect the dots and you're like, oh, hey, it's not good for me.
Yeah. Well, also, when you stay with high cortisol, it increases inflammation in your body. And it makes you gain extra belly fat.
Ooh, we don't like that.
In men and women.
Yeah.
And when you're holding on to extra fat around your middle, in males and females, that holds estrogen. So when your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, so if you're chronically stressed because you're working too much, you're not truly resting, not sleeping well, not choosing to rest like God tells us to rest, which I think really is a struggle in the American culture.
Oh, it is, absolutely.
Then you end up with extra estrogen, which then throws everything else off. And then xenoestrogens, which we'll talk about more. I mean, males and females are completely upside down in having too much estrogen.
Oh,
and
well, you can see it in the male physique.
Yep, you can. And you can see it and I think too, women, as we get older, we think okay, I hit 50 and I'm just supposed to be a pear shape, or I'm supposed to just gain weight. I just go up another size when I hit 50. This is menopause and we can actually fix those things. It is possible. We're not supposed to just have high cortisol and low estrogen or high estrogen and low progesterone. So it's, we're supposed to be doing that. Okay, this is the one personal story I wanted to share. So in that confusion of the perimenopause stage, which now I know fully, that is exactly what this is. It's not just I got mixed up from COVID and being surrounded by people getting the shots, which I do think that is what happened. Well, now for these last several years, I've just been in that perimenopause stage. So going through this switch, my progesterone is dropping, all my hormone levels are dropping, because that's what happens as we get older. And
so great.
And then, so I just feel kind of crazy in my head. I think the most frustrating symptom to me was that I just felt like I had tears right behind my eyes all the time, which
I saw
a lot
that
of
in
people
you
say
it's
that
unusual for you because
it is. It's not my personality at all.
Absolutely not. It'd be more my personality, I think, than yours. And to see you sort of come to work or whatever, it was just not. It's not your MO at all.
And it's not. I couldn't even make myself cry about it because it was. It's not like I had something that I felt like I should be crying about. I just felt like there were tears, and that isn't how. I mean, I'm like a once every 4 months crier. I mean, I'm really not that much of a crier, and it's not because it's a weakness to me, or that's just not how God made me. So to feel like that all the time is really tiring.
Yeah, it is.
And so anyway, I was learning different things about my hormones, all this. Well, I started using lavender on my skin just because I thought, okay, this is good for my skin. I started using Young Living lavender, which I hadn't been using on my skin. So I just started putting it on my skin in the morning and the evening after I'd washed my face. And after about a week, all of a sudden I told Robert, I'm like, wait a minute. I don't feel like I want to cry all the time. I felt clear-headed. I felt like I was working through work tasks with efficiency. I felt like my brain fog, and I didn't do it
the
for
brain
that.
fog is a real
It is,
thing.
and it's tiring, and you can't find the right words, and it's frustrating. So then I stopped using it for a couple of days, and I noticed, I was like, okay, this really was helping me. Went back to it again, absolutely. So by accident, I started using lavender on my face, totally changed this. So now it's been a month.
Why do you think that is?
I can absolutely, so lavender helps your emotions. So using it topically, but when you smell an essential oil, all of them, but lavender in particular, it gets right into your limbic system, which is our hormone and emotional center in our brain. And within 6 seconds, then within 20 seconds, it's in your bloodstream. Wow. And I actually don't love the smell of lavender. It's not one I would ever pick. I only have lavender because I've gotten free bottles of it. I've never ordered it, which now I will. But all that to say, there are things that can help you feel better. So my whole answer in this isn't lavender is the solution. But for me, it was, I can actually feel better. I don't actually have to. So that means I'm going to keep fighting to figure out how I can feel better. Yeah. So for me, that was just really interesting. And it has happened in the past month. And then this summer, so I started taking Cortistop to lower my cortisone, made sure I've been so good about walking several times a week.
That was my new thing that I've started doing is just walking.
Yeah, because it works for me. I hate going to the gym. I would rather get my eyes poked out. I hate it.
Oh, me too.
But
girlfriend.
I love walking.
You guys, Swork It. You should look at the Swork It app.
Yeah.
It's great. But I thought, I can do, so my husband actually really helped me get back into working out. Just, little bits for me. Mostly strength training.
And that is really good. It's not what I prefer, and it is at the gym, but
it's just using my body weight.
Yeah.
Which happily I've got a little bit of body weight. So.
That is true. I mean, push-ups and squats you can do anywhere you are. There's no excuse not to do them.
I do because I have got issues with my joints, especially ball joints. But I do like the wall, wall push-ups. But what I wanted to say was it's this like 10 minutes. Jay was just like, you can do anything for 10 minutes. Just tell yourself 10 minutes. And then what I realize is once I get into it, I can go another 5 minutes. So now I've just been carving the time out. But just taking the dog and just walking one direction in 10 minutes. Well, then I turn around and walk back, and all of a sudden I've walked for 20 minutes. Yep. And it's good for you. It really is. I wonder what would happen, if we all just got out and walked for 20 minutes every day. I think we'd look better, and we'd feel better this time next year.
Well, I think, too, for people in the Northwest especially, is getting your face out there. I mean, I walked in the rain on Sunday after church.
Yeah.
And I took an umbrella. And there I went, right down
Look
there
at
by
you.
the water. And
wow, you're getting, she's getting her winter web feet. We haven't had any snow yet.
I know.
Shoot. It's coming. It's coming. Let's talk about this. One thing that I wanted to be sure and hit on was these xenoestrogens, and define it, sort of tell people what they are. Because I think once you understand the different kinds of estrogens and what hormones play, it's kind of game changing in how you decide to move into the different seasons of your life.
Yeah. And so let's talk for a second about what the xenoestrogens are doing to us. So 1 out of 10 women have endometriosis. 1 out of 13 have a thyroid disorder. 30% of women have fibrocystic breasts. 7 million women, which is 30% of women, are diagnosed with depression. So it's huge. Every 10 minutes in the U.S., 12 hysterectomies are performed. That's like 1 hysterectomy every minute. And I'm not saying that's a sin issue. It's just
no, it isn't.
That's a solution. Birth control pills increase cancer by 500%.
You know what? Okay, so again, this is not a birth control, podcast. But I will say, I started listening to my friend Alex Clark, who has, the Poplytics podcast. She did a show on the dangers of estrogen, related birth control for women.
Yep.
And it was a game. I sent it to my daughters, every single one of them. I was like, you guys need to listen to this. Because again, I'm 18 years old. I got married at 19. They put me on the pill. No one ever said what it was doing. I didn't really, I understood what it was doing. I understood the mechanics of it, but you don't know what you don't know. And when you do know something, you better do better. And the reality is what you just said is birth control is causing all manner of cancer for women. It's not good for us. Our bodies weren't made for that.
Well, and our young women who have cramps go to the doctor and they put them on a birth control pill to change their cramps.
It's crazy.
And they're not talking to them about changing what you're eating. Are you sleeping well? Get off caffeine and garbage soda. And there are so many things they can do. And that is our Western medicine model.
Yeah, it is.
Here's a symptom. Let's give you a pill. I'll see you next month for your next prescription.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's sad is what it is. So that's what is happening because of it. Another really big one is statins cause dementia. Our brain is made of cholesterol, and statins strip cholesterol levels. So all of our female hormones are made of cholesterol. We need some cholesterol.
Butter.
The most prescribed class of drugs
butter.
Is statins.
Yeah.
Those statins strip your cholesterol levels, and they've changed the model of what's a safe cholesterol level once statins came on.
Well, also, you're noticing, and again, this is another one of those conversations that we're starting to see come to the forefront again. Is that the cholesterol is actually not the enemy. Right. So we've been told cholesterol is the enemy.
We need it.
So what did I grow up on?
Yeah.
Imperial margarine, because we were told the butter was bad. Milk is bad. The fat in the milk is bad. Everybody should be drinking non-fat milk. Well, then you saw the levels of dementia and Alzheimer's just skyrocket. Well, turns out your brain needs cholesterol to function well.
Right. Because God actually knew what he was doing when he created us.
Yeah.
It's true.
Back to butter.
Okay, so xenoestrogens. We cannot, I'm all about the butter.
I know. I'm just saying. Just a moment of silence. I just grass-fed butter.
Okay, so xenoestrogens, they're in our environment, and there's an amount of them we cannot control. So we can't live in fear about it, but there are things in our own home we can control it. So fragrances, artificial fragrances, they really are not good for us. This means candles, beloved candles, air fresheners, plug-ins.
Moment of silence for all the candles Melissa won't let me burn in my house.
I know, it's true. And it doesn't mean don't ever burn them.
But we've got a little diffuser going, and it smells pretty good.
Right? It's good for you.
I've got that in my kitchen, and I was using just putting in like clove and nutmeg, all winter, and it's fabulous. And you're not releasing chemicals into the air.
Right. They actually are good for you. Fluoride. Toxic cleaners.
Oh, you're going to bring up the F word,
fluoride. I know. Go do some research on that one. Plastics, microwaving your food in plastic containers, letting water bottles get hot in your car and cold in your car, freezing them. There's those leaching those plastics. Teflon, which most people I think are pretty through, they're done with Teflon at this point.
I learned Teflon was bad when, years ago, we had a blue and gold macaw in our house, a giant bird that my daughter Savannah talked me into for some unknown reason. I was probably in the middle of my cycle when she talked me into that. Anyway, the bird, if we cooked on like a skillet, a Teflon skillet, It would kill the bird. The smoke that came off of so when we got the bird, the person that sold us the bird was like, get rid of all the Teflon in your house, which of course we had. Everybody had nonstick skillets in the 90s and the early 2000s. That's what we did. That's what we cooked on. Oh. And she was like, if that reaches a smoke point, the chemicals that come off the Teflon will kill the bird. And I was like, well, then won't they kill people too eventually?
They call them forever chemicals because they literally don't ever leave your body.
PFAS or whatever they call that.
Yes.
Yeah, craziness.
Yeah. People should go watch the movie Dark Waters. It's really interesting.
I saw that.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, so switch to cast iron, right? Get yourself a good cast iron set of skillets. Yeah.
Okay, so those xenoestrogens, and that list is long. Google them. What they do is they act like estrogen in our body. So then if we have a cell receptor and then you're wanting estrogen to fit in it, it's already blocked. Mm-hmm. So your body's thinking, oh, this is great, I already have this estrogen. Well, then it stops making the real estrogen that you need, or it can't get to where it needs to go because your cells are dirty with fake estrogens. The other thing is in men, well, so for males and females, what it's doing is it's putting this in this estrogen dominant state, which is not where you want to live. So estrogen and progesterone are supposed to work like healthy sisters. They work in harmony. Progesterone is kind of the like the queen of them. It's the boss, basically. When estrogen dominance occurs, the xenoestrogens take over. And
so they're fake.
Yes, they're fake. So Dr. Edie talks about it. She says xenoestrogens are like an evil stepsister. It's not what you want in there. They clog the receptors. So also blood work often does not give us the right, it's not reading our hormones properly. So they really encourage people to get a Dutch test or ZRT labs. And sometimes you can go on, just Google Dutch hormone test, and Google ZRT labs, and they can refer you to doctors who will actually do those tests. Or you can ask a lot of doctors these days, the wellness model doctors.
Well, I'm sure probably Dr. Mark is doing that too.
Yes, yep. So they're reading those differently. So the xenoestrogens, do they really matter? Yes, they do. The other thing is, we'll give our little girls, we go to Bath and Body Works, and we get this set of lotion and candles and, and makeup, all that stuff. We're literally
vanilla.
giving them cancer causing and hormone disrupting gifts and saying, put this all over your body. The artificial fragrances really are
your skin
unhealthy.
Is your largest organ, and so we slather all these things on our skin, and we're for lack of a better word, you're really ingesting them because they're going in through your skin. Right. I had the same thought because for goodness sake, I raised my kids on Bath and Body Works. Yep. And all the
and we all did
the Glade plugins and all the things that we did, and we're just now learning. And I think what you said is really important, and I kind of want to go back to it for half a second. This is not to freak everybody out. I just think we're not supposed to live in fear, and we've all seen that, right? So this isn't, you don't need to run home or panic, but I do think we start making little changes,
right?
And those little changes over a period of time wind up making healthier people. We're making healthier choices, and when you make healthier choices, you become a healthier person. I don't care if it's with the things that you read or the things that you allow yourself to watch or the things that you eat or the things that you smell or the candles that you burn. We have choices that we get to make every day, and eventually those little tiny choices that are good choices end up having a really big positive result.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like God created us to live a life of abundance, and I think I don't think that only speaks to money. I think we tend to go there pretty quickly. Sure. But I feel like the healthier we are, the more free we are to do what the Lord wants us to do.
Yeah.
Because we have energy to do those things. Yeah. So I think it really is.
So there's so many. Really important. I think what you just said is there's really some really great spiritual components to this, and the correlations to, when we feel good, we're able, obviously, to fulfill whatever it is that God's asking us to do. There are a lot of people listening to this that, they have a dream in their heart or something that they want to do, but they just don't feel good. And I recognize this is not, I'm not, saying there are people with chronic illness, people that are struggling with cancer right now, things like that. And God has us, sometimes we go through those seasons of our life, certainly, But we're talking about things that can be avoided.
Right.
You know, we're talking about the stuff that you put on your skin, the things that you're drinking, the things that you're eating, the candles you're burning, all of those things, making those little micro changes. I want to talk because man, we're burning through this time, Melissa. We're like, I wonder if we have enough to talk about for like, you know, a whole episode. I think we do. Suffice it to say, let's talk about progesterone because this is this is a big deal.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was you or Dr. Mark who suggested to me that I get my progesterone levels checked. This was years ago. Game changing for me. Absolutely game changing. Also, I started seeing a naturopath and a functional medicine doctor, which was huge. But what happens, talk to us for just a second about progesterone and what happens when our progesterone is within normal levels.
Okay, so when it's good, it thickens and stabilizes the lining of your uterus. It initiates menstruation, so your progesterone goes high and then it drops, and that's when that's day one. That's when you start bleeding. It's a natural diuretic, so it helps us not feel bloated all the time. It's really important in blood sugar balance. It helps burn fat. It drastically reduces night sweats and hot flashes. I think everybody wants that.
Hello.
It reduces blood clots. It supports normal thyroid function. It decreases vascular inflammation. It encourages normal fertility and bleeding, It reduces the risk of breast cancer by 500%, having a normal, healthy progesterone level. It makes breasts light and fluffy, so it's fighting against fibrocystic breast disease, which can be really hard to see if you happen to have any sort of cancer. If you have fibrocystic breasts, the tissue is thick and heavy. Drastically improves sleep. Decreases faster than other hormones with age, and it really improves your skin. So this is the thing. When you have enough progesterone, when your progesterone numbers are good, you sleep really well all the way through the night, and your sex drive is great. So if you're not sure, the other thing is you generally don't have PMS.
Yeah.
So those are some measures without even getting a test that you sleep well, sleep like a baby, your sex drive is great, and you shouldn't have PMS symptoms.
So when we talk about hormones, you know, kind of lump it, because I want to talk about male hormones for a second too, because there's a lot, you know, there's a lot of men that listen to the show, but there's tons of women with men in their lives. And I think it's a conversation worth having. But when we're talking about hormones as a general rule, what would you say the goal is when we're trying to regulate those hormones and to have them work for us and not against us?
So the goal is to sleep well, have a good sex drive, not have miserable cycles. We want to increase your hormone supporting oils until those things happen. So one of the things that we're talking about is we love Young Living, and Young Living has quite a few supplements and quite a few essential oils that I've seen infertility corrected with it. For me, PMS has completely disappeared with using Progestance Plus. They have quite a few different supplements that you can use.
I mean, you and I have had this conversation before. I can only use it every once in a while. I think my progesterone levels must be pretty decent, because when I start using it, if I go for too long, I notice I'm like, oh, too much of that. I mean, that Progestance Plus is a game changer. It's a very, very powerful.
The other thing is, if your numbers are really low, then you can have, like, your body's like, wait, what is happening? So that adjustment can be challenging if your numbers really are low. So as you're adjusting, you want to adjust slowly so that you feel well. We want to overcome the xenoestrogens. So you want to remove them, but it's progesterone that comes in and kind of gets them back into order. So you generally want to always start with progesterone, and then you want to work on estrogen. If you think your estrogen is low, you want to start with progesterone first.
And people can have you can have a blood test.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, that's
there's no reason to guess about any of this stuff.
Right. That's the Dutch test and the ZRT labs and things like that.
I was shocked when my blood work came back, and I was like, oh, like they put me on testosterone.
Yep.
And it was a game changer for me, and all of a sudden I started sleeping better.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah, it really makes a big difference.
And I don't have a mustache, and I'm still on testosterone.
Because you're not on too much of it.
That's why
that's the good thing.
There you go.
So there are lots of lifestyle things that we'll talk about in a minute that help men and women, because a lot of those lifestyle changes are the same thing. And there are a whole lot of supplements and essential oils that can help So there's Progessence Plus that everybody will talk about. If you go to the Young Living website, just search Progessence, but it's in the body care section because it's a serum. But then there are also oils. There's Lady Sclerol, there's Clary Sage, there's Sclerescence.
You should talk about Clary Sage for just a second.
There are a lot.
That's a crazy oil.
It's an estrogenic oil, and actually men can take it to help with blood pressure. So it's really interesting. And I should say, too, that if people decide to purchase with Young Living, in our groups, we have a lot of educational videos that talk real specifically about how people might want to use these oils.
I'd love to have my daughters come on with you sometime. That would be a fascinating conversation. Sierra, I just had her little guy Hudson, when he's like 4 months old now or something, 5 months old, for goodness sake, he's about ready to go to kindergarten. Anyway, she had a home birth. And she relied almost entirely on essential oils and the blends, and her postpartum was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And she did the research ahead of time. I've never seen anything like it. I don't want to have a home birth. No one send me hate mail. Okay. I just don't want to do it. And fortunately I don't need to, because I'm done having babies. But I was really proud of her. And the same with Savannah. They have really learned to incorporate these oils into their pregnancy and postpartum care, and it's a game changer. It's amazing. I mean, we really should. We'll have to talk to them. I'd love to have them come on and just talk about what they did, because I just think if all the women who are pregnant right now had access to what you guys were doing, I think we'd hear different birth stories. I think we would, and different
really
recovery stories. Absolutely.
So okay. So the having your numbers is helpful. You can add progestins if you want to. A lot of people can, just measure, in our lives. When we exercise, do we notice we're doing better? When we drink more water? So it's not, there are some things that if you want to try it, a lot of people try it and they're like, oh man, I feel so much better. But if somebody's really confused,
the group is
absolutely
healthy.
Go get it.
I think healthy, but I meant to say helpful. The groups are really helpful. Because if you've got a particular question, like I started using Lady Scar, which by the way just smells really good too.
It does.
It just smells
that
really,
one helps
really
with
good.
Estrogen and hormone. Emotional support.
Phenomenal. I love that one. That's one I keep by my sink every night. But I think it's nice to be able to have some place where you can go and ask a specific question, and you're going to have like 50 people are going to say, oh, here's what I did. And it's just, after a while you start to get to know the rhythm of your own body and what works and what doesn't. And it's those little choices that we're making toward having a healthier lifestyle. It really is game changing. Can we jump for just a second? We'll come back to some of this. I want to jump to male hormones. Because we're going to run out of time. For just tell us a little bit about male hormones and kind of what's the scoop. What do we need to know?
Okay, so the average testosterone levels in men have dropped 40% since the 80s. They're basically dropping 1% a year.
That is insane.
It's significant. And if you look around, you can see it. So when you can see, if you go to a water park or a swimming pool, that's one of the best places, is a lot of men have man boobs. And that means they are also being affected by these xenoestrogens. Yes, their testosterone is low, but the man boobs are an estrogen. It's because they have too much
like an estrogen
dominance. And men are supposed to have some estrogen. Women are supposed to have some testosterone. Men are also supposed to have progesterone. So we all have a little bit of all of it, but the numbers that we're supposed to have really are different. So in men, they're affected by fragrances, chemicals, Axe, body spray. No offense to Axe, but
stop using
cologne, shaving cream, soaps, body wash. They have all the same endocrine disruptors that we do. They just smell different. The plastics, microwaving in their plastic and all that kind of stuff. Men have a daily hormonal cycle. So where we have a 28-day cycle, they have a daily cycle. So
that sounds rough.
Their testosterone, it's way easier than ours is though. Their testosterone is high in the morning. It goes down. Their afternoon
I
testosterone
could have told you that,
is middle.
and I'm not a doctor.
Right. And then their evening testosterone goes down. They have a human growth hormone dump at about 9 p.m.
Really?
So that affects more of their sleep. So their testosterone changes with mood, changes with video games, changes with football games. So they know there are activities that we think of these manly things. it is boosting their testosterone levels. You know, men climbing trees, chasing bears, carrying guns around, like those things literally are raising testosterone. So their activity alone is helping raise testosterone. So men go through what's called an andropause, which is often when we see a midlife crisis. So their testosterone drops and they're not quite sure what to do about it. Nobody's talking about men's testosterone dropping. So that's between 40 and 55. So they know they don't feel the same. So they're going and looking for these lifestyle things to feel more manly. And wait, I'm losing this, but really their testosterone is dropping. And it's affecting their headspace. It's affecting lots of other things. And they're trying to figure out what that is. So they think, oh, I need a newer model. Or I need to, you know, I got to look better. I need a new car to make me feel manly. All these things, and or
they just
why
sit down
am I
and have
not?
a conversation with
or
Jim
they're
Ramos.
just cranky, and that's exactly what they should do. They just don't feel well. And they want to feel better.
Jim's going to slap a backpack on him and say, "We're going to go rucking."
Exactly.
That's what he's going to do.
Well, and they should do it. So they're hot. They can have hot flashes, night sweats that can be from their estrogen too high. If they're carrying fat around their middle, that's carrying estrogen. Also, then they end up in premetabolic disorder because their blood sugar is staying high all the time. Their pituitary gland is affected, their pineal gland, their thyroid, their adrenal glands, their testes are affected. So, and then their prostate. So they really have their own complicated system. It just, people don't talk about it, mostly because men just generally don't talk about those things. So there are lots of different oils that also can help men with all of those hormonal different body parts, organs and things. Shutran, Mister is an essential oil blend. Idaho Blue Spruce acts like testosterone in the body. You can take it
out of town.
In men. It does not act as testosterone for females, but it does for men.
But you could diffuse it even, I would think.
Yep, you could diffuse it. They can take it in capsules.
Also, it smells really good, I have to say.
Yep. Goldenrod decongest the prostate. Then there are a couple supplements. Powergize. There's a prostate health supplement. And a lot of people, their husbands aren't interested in using oils. Ask them if you can give them a foot rub every night and put Idaho Blue Spruce on their feet. Massage oils, rub their back. I don't know very many men who are going to turn you down if you ask them to give a massage.
Nope.
And you guys can figure out how that works in your home. Most are going to say, yes, sure, put those oils in there if you think that they would benefit from it.
Yeah.
And there are a whole lot of men who, as soon as they see a benefit, they're like, okay, give me more of that.
Well, I told you, my husband uses those oils all the time, but he became a believer when we were on the road and we're having, because of all the junk you eat on the road and upset stomach and all that. And he used Digize and he was like, oh my word, like it was like a miracle oil. Yeah. And I don't think he doesn't go anywhere without that stuff in his bag. And so once you've had experience and you realize, oh, hey, this is actually really is good for me. It really does work. It's game changing. And I think, having those conversations, be willing to try something new. But I love it. Jim Ramos would say, yeah, don't nag. I think he would say that. So I love your foot massage, trick. That's a good trick. Yeah. I like it.
And then they realize, oh, they feel better. And then oh, hey.
So kind of wrap it up, Melissa. Let's put a bow on it.
All right.
How do we like, if, in short, just, how to improve overall hormones for males and females?
So lifestyle for everybody, the teenagers in our home, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I would say everyday lifestyle is eat healthy fats. Our brain needs those healthy fats.
Back
it feeds
to
our
better.
brain. Yep.
Avocados.
Decrease sugars and processed
Sardines.
foods. White. If it's just a bleached white flour, it's really not good for you.
Yeah.
It fits in the processed food category. Avoid xenoestrogens. The fragrances really are bad for us.
Which is such a bummer.
They really are. But you can find products that are fragranced with other things.
Like our perfume.
Buy an unscented healthy lotion and put your own essential oil in it.
So mine's here. So I use this every morning. I just rub it over my heart. It's called Joy. I don't even know what's in it. I couldn't tell you. Off the top of my head.
It has some geranium and some lavender and orange.
I love this.
And
it just
bergamot.
smells so bergamot. That's probably what I really love in it.
I love that oil blend.
But Joy is a great one. Tell me so you got me using this one, and this bottle's almost gone. So Melissa actually picked up my little travel bag in my purse because we forgot to bring our oils to the studio today. But I always have these in my purse. Endoflex.
Endoflex is actually a great one for all ages because it just supports the endocrine system.
I love this
which
one.
is every single person's hormone system. Actually, a lot of people say that if you have a toddler pitching a fit, rub that oil bottle in front of their nose, and it helps calm their cortisol level, which is up from their temper tantrum.
That is...
but you're young teenagers and you think, I think their
amazing.
hormones are off, but I don't know what to do. Endoflex is a great one because it's supporting the endocrine system in what God made it to do.
Put it like on your back, right over your adrenals.
Your adrenals, instead of adding a hormone.
Yeah.
So that's a great one for that. Avoid toxic cleaners and body care products.
Yeah,
so
that's a big
really change that stuff out. Look at your detergent. Look at your fabric softener.
Yeah.
Use Thieves Cleaner instead of every other cleaner in your house.
I use Thieves almost exclusively now for even for my windows. I use it for everything, and it's fabulous and it smells good. I quit using fabric softener when I learned what was in it.
I know, and it sticks on your skin. You literally spend 24 hours with fabric softener soaking into your skin, unless you live in a nudist colony.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah. So increase your B vitamins. Improve your thyroid health, which is where eliminating your fluoride and chlorine, because they displace iodine, which your thyroid needs. Using Endoflex is great for that. You can put Endoflex straight on your thyroid. I do every single day. And my blood work changed. My thyroid was low, and I started using, I told my doctor, I said, let me use this. She wanted to put me on something. I said, no, give me 6 months. Started using Endoflex, and I went in 6 months later for that test, and I was smack dab in the center of the healthy range just from using Endoflex every day.
It's amazing.
And it smells, everybody hugs me in the morning, and they're like, you smell so good.
Well, you're like a walking essential oil bomb. When Melissa walks into work, we're just like, well, Liz is here, and we didn't even see her. We just smelled her.
Get good sleep. Sometimes that means changing your hormones to get good sleep. There are different things. Sometimes you can't sleep because your hormones are off.
Well, and also get off your phones right before you go to bed. I mean, there's also, they're getting into those really healthy patterns is important.
Yeah.
And I know that there are seasons, like, you just came from a season where, had all kinds of issues because of the death of your dad, that you're traveling and you're on the phone with different people in different time zones. So I recognize, like, there are seasons where it doesn't work the way we'd like it to.
For sure.
But if you're in a season when you're not having like a really big outside stressor, an external stressor, try to get into those healthy patterns, just like we try to get into a healthy pattern of reading the Bible every day. And that's hugely what we focus on at Faith That Speaks.
Yeah.
Those healthy patterns, and you kind of train your mind and your body for a certain thing. Like, just like we said at the beginning of the show, you can train your body to need alcohol, or you can train your body to need water. Like when you start to get thirsty and all of a sudden you notice, oh, hey, I haven't had water, which, by the way.
Or to need a good walk outside.
We probably should have some water.
Yeah. Okay, work to get off your statin. Do that with your doctor's advice. I'm not giving anybody experience on that one, but that can really change your life, especially as an older female, because I mean, you can actually start to feel like you have dementia from your statin. Yep. Exercise in whatever way works for you.
Yeah.
Don't put so much pressure on yourself for it to be. I mean, honestly, if you look at Instagram or you Google stuff, literally you can get 50 different answers on what the right exercise is. Do whatever works for you in your life, because it's better than whatever you're not doing.
These guys should sponsor my show, but I really do think you guys should look at the Swork It app.
Yep.
And the reason I like it so much is because you can do anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour. You can do whatever you want, but there's all these different levels. So like there's a section there for functional mobility. So for those of you who are older and you're just trying to keep moving, they have back strengthening exercises. They've got cardio. They've got kettlebell. I just started doing kettlebell. They have Pilates that you can do. So lots of different exercises for, because different ones of us, we can't all do the same thing. But the point is, get moving. Get moving. Your movement is life. Our bodies need to move.
And anything, I think of this the same way as food. Every vegetable I have is actually better than the bowl of ice cream. So every one choice that you make,
that's only a result of the fall.
Every one day you move,
I would just like to say,
is better than every one day that you don't move.
I feel like when we get to heaven, ice cream,
we can have all the
will
ice
be better
cream
than
and
vegetables. I feel like,
So I think this is important to say. There is no possible way we can cover, number one, all the answers. Number two, we are responsible for learning this stuff for ourselves. And God gave us brains. He gave us people with other information.
Yeah.
So what I would say, because we're going to get people and say, wait a minute, you didn't say this. We mentioned Clary Sage, Lady Sclerol, Sclerescence, Progessence Plus. Then there's Endogize, and there's Power Gize, and there's PD 8020. there are lots of things. And then there's Ningxia Red, actually. They have lots of third-party studies now, thankfully, on how great Ningxia is for you. It's a great super juice drink. There's so much, we can't get it all in one podcast. So what I would say is go to thebusymom.com oils, join us there.
Thebusymom.com /
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Thebusymom.com / oils. When you join our groups, we have tons of Facebook groups. You can directly text me. I can't diagnose or treat, but I can work through a conversation with you and help you find some information for yourself. We have active Facebook groups. There is so much support. Most people don't even access all the support because there's so much. And, when you start using essential oils, and the other thing is at that page, thebusymom.com / oils, we have other podcasts listed where we've talked about other things. Some of these things we've hit in much greater detail. Yeah, we have a whole podcast just on cortisol.
Well, we had a whole podcast just on anxiety.
Yes.
People who are
so
dealing with
those
anxiety.
are listed on that page. We have a 101, Essential Oils 101. I've never used them. How do I start? How do they work? Those are good. Those are great questions to ask. And we cannot cover it all in one podcast. No. So what I would say is go look at that page, listen to some of those other podcasts, or just go ahead and join us. Get your starter kit. It's a great toolkit for all of the body systems, and then start learning and clean out, replace what you're using with these good essential oils that are help cleaning out your life. Yep.
One at a time. I mean, I think that the key is really not getting overwhelmed, because what we're trying to do is have a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
So that it's just like with dieting. Like we don't diet anymore. We just eat healthy.
It has to be sustainable.
We just try to,
because and then you feel like you're just a failure.
Yeah, otherwise
which isn't what we're going for.
Right.
It's the one decision. What's one decision you can make that's better than the other decision?
It's the same reason.
And then just be thankful for that one.
Absolutely true. It's the same reason that with the read through the Bible that we're doing at Faith That Speaks, I've been telling the women, if you fall behind, don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
Jump in where we are. Otherwise, the enemy just gets in there and goes, I got too much work to do to catch up. No, just jump and do what you can today. Just like my husband telling me you can do anything for 10 minutes a day. Melissa Crabtree, just a delight to have you as always. I love that we're here in the new studio. It's like a dream come true. And I can't wait to see what happens.
I know. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It is fun. I love to come talk about this stuff. And
I know.
Hopefully
Well, obviously, it just pours. Can you guys imagine? I mean, what it's like to work with this woman all the time? I mean, the whole upstairs administrative offices at Firmly Planted Family. Everybody's got diffusers going in their offices.
I know. It's a pretty happy place, though.
It's a pretty happy place. Thank you guys so much for listening to the show today. Make sure that you set this podcast on automatic download and leave a review wherever podcast reviews can be left, especially over at iTunes. We really appreciate it. Don't forget also to sign up for my email list. That is where we send out breaking news, anything, new products, that kind of thing. It all comes out on our email list. If you want to know where I'll be, again, the email list. If you've got a question that you'd like to submit to me, I answer those questions here at Mailbox Monday, and you can go to HeidiSt.John.com / Mailbox Monday. You can also leave suggestions there for guest ideas. We love to hear from you. We want to hear how this podcast is encouraging you, things that we can improve. Tell us what you think of the new studio. We'd love to hear and give a shout out to the new team here, especially to my son Skylar, who's done such a good job designing the set. So I hope you guys are enjoying this and that it's been a blessing to you. If you want to join me in my read through the Bible, the way to do that is to go to faiththatspeaks.com. That's faiththatspeaks.com. You can sign up right now and jump into God's Word. I guarantee you it'll change your life. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you're interested in the essential oils that Melissa and I have been talking about, go to thebusymom.com / oils. Thanks again to my sponsor. You guys check them out. I love these guys. Go to notconsumed.com / Heidi and make sure you use the coupon code Heidi and you'll get 15% off your purchase there. We love you guys. Have a great day. Love your people well. I'll see you right back here again at the intersection of faith and culture.